Power does not begin with talent. It begins with perception. The way you see yourself is the way the world learns to treat you. If you walk into a room unsure, hesitant, and silent, people will unconsciously place you at the bottom. If you walk in calm, composed, and certain, people will adjust their behavior around you. This is not magic. It is psychology. Machiavelli understood this clearly. He knew that appearance often controls reality more than reality itself. Subscribe to the channel now. You might not see me again. Acting as if you are the best is not about lying to yourself. It is about controlling the image you project. In a world driven by competition, hesitation is interpreted as weakness, and weakness invites disrespect. When you move with certainty, people assume you have value, even before they understand what you offer. This gives you an advantage in every interaction. This mindset is not about arrogance. It is about control. Control over how you are perceived, treated, and remembered. Many men lose opportunities not because they are unqualified, but because they do not carry themselves like they deserve the opportunity. Power responds to confidence first, and skill second. Machiavellian psychology teaches a hard truth. People follow strength, not potential. If you do not project strength, others will define your place for you. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. You will not see us again. Perception creates power because people do not judge you based on your hidden abilities. They judge you based on what they see in the first few seconds. In Machiavellian psychology, this is the foundation of control. Whoever controls perception controls influence. When you enter any environment, you are being measured before you even speak. Your posture, your face, your calmness, your hesitation or certainty, all speak louder than words. People are not waiting for your explanation. They are already forming conclusions about your value. This is why acting as if you are the best is not about ego. It is about strategy. The world responds to signals, not intentions. If your signal is weak, people will treat you as weak even if you are capable. If your signal is strong, people will adjust their behavior around you even before you prove anything. This is how power begins in silence. Most men fail in life not because they lack skill, but because they allow others to define them too quickly. The moment you accept a low perception of yourself, you begin to operate from that level. You hesitate in conversations, you over-explain yourself, and you lower your standards in order to be accepted. But people rarely respect what tries too hard to be accepted. Machiavelli understood that human beings are influenced more by appearance than truth. That is why rulers in history invested heavily in image, presence, and reputation. They knew that perception builds authority faster than achievements alone. When you act like you belong at the top, you force people to reconsider how they treat you. They begin to observe you more carefully. They begin to assume you have something they do not fully understand yet. That assumption alone creates space for influence. Confidence changes how your words land. The same sentence spoken with doubt sounds weak, but spoken with certainty sounds powerful. This is why your internal state must be disciplined. You cannot afford to walk into situations projecting uncertainty. Even when you are unsure, you must move with control. This is not deception. It is emotional discipline. The goal is not to fake greatness, but to behave in alignment with the version of yourself that you are building. Over time, people start responding to that version, not your past. Perception is also fragile. Once people categorize you as weak, it is difficult to change their mind. But when you are perceived as strong from the beginning, you are given more patience, more respect, and more opportunity to prove yourself. That is why first impressions carry so much weight in power dynamics. Machiavellian thinking teaches that control is often won before action even begins. The battlefield is the mind of others. If they see you as valuable, they will treat you as valuable. If they see you as ordinary, you will constantly fight to be noticed. This is the harsh structure of social reality, and the men who understand it never walk into life shrinking themselves. They walk in as if they already belong at the top, because in many cases that assumption alone decides everything that follows. Body language is one of the most powerful tools in Machiavellian psychology because it communicates your value without a single word. Most men underestimate how much information they are revealing through their posture, movement, and facial expressions. Before you even speak, people have already decided a lot about you. They decide if you are confident, if you are nervous, if you are someone worth respecting, or someone they can ignore. This judgment happens automatically and almost instantly. That is why the silent language of confidence can make or break your presence in any situation. When you understand this, you begin to realize that power is not only in what you say, but in how you occupy space. A man who stands straight, moves slowly with control, and maintains steady eye contact sends a clear signal of authority. He does not need to explain himself too much because his presence already speaks for him. On the other hand, a man who fidgets, avoids eye contact, or rushes his movements unconsciously signals insecurity. People may not consciously notice every detail, but they feel it. And in social psychology, people trust what they feel more than what they think. Machiavelli understood this principle in leadership and influence. He knew that rulers who appeared strong were often obeyed more easily, even before their actions were fully judged. The same rule applies in everyday life. If your body language suggests that you are uncertain, people will test you, interrupt you, or overlook you. But if your body language shows calm authority, people will naturally give you more space and respect. This does not mean acting aggressive or dominating others. It means being controlled in your movements and intentional in your presence. Silence itself becomes powerful when it is paired with calm confidence. A man who can sit quietly without discomfort already holds more influence than one who constantly tries to fill every silence with words. Eye contact is another major element. Avoiding eye contact signals fear or submission, while steady but relaxed eye contact signals awareness and control. The key is not to stare aggressively, but to remain present without looking away out of nervousness. Even your walking style matters. A rushed walk suggests anxiety or lack of direction, while a steady, measured walk suggests purpose. People read these signals unconsciously and assign value to them. Machiavellian strategy teaches that perception is often built before logic is involved. People decide how to treat you based on the story your body tells them. If your body tells a story of weakness, you will constantly need to prove yourself with words. If your body tells a story of strength, your words will carry more weight automatically. This is why mastering body language is not optional for power. It is a silent advantage that works in every environment, whether social, professional, or personal. When you learn to control your physical expression, you begin to control how others interpret your worth. And in a world where perception often becomes reality, that control is a form of power that cannot be ignored. Assumed value is one of the most powerful forces in Machiavellian psychology, because people rarely challenge what they already believe is true about you. When you act like you are important, capable, and valuable, others begin to treat you that way without needing constant proof. This is not because they are convinced by your words alone, but because human beings tend to follow social cues. If you behave like you belong at a higher level, people start adjusting their behavior to match that assumption. This is how status is quietly built in any environment. The key idea is simple. People respect what they think is already respected. If you enter a room and behave like you are unsure of your place, people will unconsciously assign you a lower position. But if you enter with calm certainty, speaking and moving as if your presence matters, you force others to recalibrate how they interact with you. They may not fully understand why, but they will begin to treat you with more attention and caution. Machiavelli understood that authority is often a performance before it becomes reality. Leaders who carry themselves with certainty are more likely to be obeyed, even when their actual power is not fully known. This is because people are influenced by signals of confidence and structure. In daily life, this means your behavior sets the price of how others treat you. If you act cheap, people will treat you cheaply. If you act valuable, people will assume you are valuable. This is why over-explaining yourself is dangerous. When you constantly try to convince others of your worth, you signal that your worth is not already established. But when you speak with calm certainty, without needing approval, people begin to fill in the gaps themselves. They assume there is more to you than what is immediately visible. This assumption works in your favor. It creates curiosity, respect, and even a slight intimidation effect. Assumed value also affects how opportunities come to you. People are more likely to include you in conversations, projects, or decisions when they believe you operate at a certain level. They do not always verify it immediately. They act based on perception first. This is why dressing well, speaking clearly, and moving with purpose are not superficial habits. They are signals of status. In Machiavellian terms, you are shaping your image before your actions are fully evaluated. Many men lose respect because they unknowingly present themselves as uncertain or unimportant. They downplay their achievements, apologize too often, or seek validation in ways that reduce their perceived value. But when you consistently behave like your presence has weight, people start adjusting their expectations around you. They listen more carefully. They interrupt less. They respond with more respect. This shift is subtle but powerful. Over time, assumed value becomes self-reinforcing. The more people treat you as important, the more you begin to operate at that level. And the more you operate at that level, the more others continue to reinforce it. This is how perception turns into reality, not through force, but through consistent projection of worth. In Machiavellian psychology, the man who controls assumed value controls his position in every social hierarchy he enters. Self-doubt is one of the fastest ways a man loses power in Machiavellian psychology, because it changes how he carries himself long before any situation even unfolds. The moment you begin to question your own value, it shows in your behavior. You hesitate when you speak. You overthink simple decisions. You seek approval instead of taking action. And people can sense this shift immediately. Power is rarely taken from a confident man without resistance, but it is easily taken from a man who is unsure of himself. This is because uncertainty creates openings. People naturally fill those openings with their own control, their own opinions, and their own direction over you. When you doubt yourself, you begin to outsource your authority to others. You start waiting for validation before moving. You begin to interpret silence as rejection and normal situations as threats. This weak internal state changes your external reality. Machiavelli understood that internal weakness always becomes external weakness over time. A man who does not trust his own judgment becomes dependent on the judgment of others, and once that happens, he is no longer leading his life. He is reacting to it. In social environments, self-doubt is quickly detected even without words. People notice when you are uncomfortable holding eye contact, when your voice rises at the end of sentences as if asking for approval, or when your body language shrinks in more dominant spaces. These signals communicate low status, and in human psychology, low status is often treated with less respect. Not always openly, but subtly. You are interrupted more, your ideas are questioned more, and your presence is less acknowledged. This is not because people consciously decide to disrespect you, but because your behavior invites it. The danger of self-doubt is that it becomes a cycle. The more you hesitate, the more negative responses you receive. And the more negative responses you receive, the more you begin to doubt yourself. Over time, this creates a personality built around avoidance instead of action. Machiavellian thinking teaches that control is lost internally before it is lost externally. If you do not control your inner narrative, others will define it for you through their reactions. A man who doubts himself in one area often begins to doubt himself in others. He second-guesses opportunities, avoids confrontation, and accepts less than he deserves because he no longer believes he can command more. This is how potential collapses quietly, not through failure, but through hesitation. Confidence, in contrast, is not the absence of uncertainty. It is the decision to act despite it. The powerful man does not wait to feel completely ready. He moves with control even when he is still building certainty. This is what separates leaders from followers. Leaders act and adjust. Followers wait and observe. Self-doubt keeps you in observation mode while life moves forward without you. In Machiavellian terms, this is a loss of position, because in every social structure, the man who hesitates too long is replaced by the man who does not. The longer you stay in doubt, the more you normalize being overlooked. And once that becomes your identity, it becomes difficult to break. That is why controlling self-doubt is not just emotional discipline. It is strategic survival. Controlled ego is one of the most advanced principles in Machiavellian psychology, because it determines whether your confidence becomes power or turns into weakness. Many men misunderstand confidence and ego, thinking they are the same thing, but they are not. Confidence is quiet strength rooted in control. Ego is emotional reaction rooted in insecurity. The man who cannot control his ego exposes himself without realizing it. He reacts too quickly to disrespect. He tries too hard to prove his worth. He becomes defensive when challenged. And in doing so, he reveals exactly where his pressure points are. Machiavelli understood that true power is never reactive. Power observes, calculates, and responds only when necessary. When a man is ruled by ego, he stops thinking strategically and starts acting emotionally. This makes him predictable. And in power dynamics, predictability is a weakness. A controlled ego, on the other hand, allows a man to stay composed even when tested. He does not rush to defend his image. He does not react to every insult or challenge. Instead, he measures whether a response is even necessary. This creates an impression of calm superiority. People begin to feel that he is not easily shaken. And when people feel that you are not easily shaken, they treat you with more caution and respect. The key is balance. Without ego, a man may appear weak or passive. With too much ego, he becomes unstable and emotional. But with controlled ego, he becomes strategic. He knows his worth, but he does not need constant validation. He understands disrespect, but he does not react to every minor offense. This restraint is what builds authority over time. Many men lose respect not because they lack ability, but because they cannot control their reactions. They argue over small things. They try to win every verbal exchange. They become emotionally involved in situations that require distance. Machiavellian psychology teaches that unnecessary reaction is a form of self-exposure. When you react too much, you reveal what controls you. And once people understand what controls you, they can influence you. Controlled ego prevents this. It keeps your emotions private and your responses intentional. Another important aspect is patience. A man with controlled ego understands that not every situation requires immediate correction. Sometimes silence builds more respect than explanation. Sometimes walking away holds more power than engaging. This is because restraint creates mystery, and mystery creates authority. People respect what they cannot easily predict. Controlled ego also strengthens leadership presence. Leaders who react emotionally lose credibility quickly. But leaders who stay composed under pressure are seen as stable and reliable. Machiavelli valued this trait because it separates those who are ruled by circumstances from those who rule circumstances. In everyday life, controlled ego allows you to navigate conflict without losing your position. You do not allow insults to dictate your behavior. You do not allow praise to inflate your judgment. You remain steady. This emotional stability is what makes others trust your presence. Over time, people begin to associate you with control, not chaos. And that association becomes your silent advantage. In the end, controlled ego is not about suppressing your identity. It is about mastering your reactions so that nothing external can easily manipulate your internal state. And in Machiavellian terms, the man who controls his ego controls his power. Power is not only about skill or intelligence. It is about how you position yourself in the minds of others. When you act like the best, you are not denying reality, you are shaping it. People respond to confidence, presence, and control long before they understand your true abilities. Machiavellian psychology teaches that perception often leads reality. If you appear weak, you will be treated as weak. If you appear strong, you will be given room to prove it. The lesson is simple. Carry yourself with certainty, control your emotions, and let your presence speak before your words ever do.